Welcome to the People's House, right? So the last 2 weeks were very stressful, as you can imagine, to pull something like this off, to get everyone to fill their table, to finish the purchases and whatnot. And it doesn't happen by accident that we have a room like this. So I want to start off by thanking Phyllis Van Arsdale for all the work that she did to organize this event. So imagine that everyone in Central Ohio, Franklin County, and Columbus had the opportunity to travel internationally once with some kind of purpose. Do you believe that we as a community would make different decisions? I want to hear it. Do you think so? Presumably, do you think those would be better decisions? So there you go. There's the vision that everyone has had this experience, whether it's an outbound experience or an inbound. We want to create more opportunities for people to be internationally engaged because it's important to our youth as they build their future and connect into the world. It's important to our artists to be inspired and to share their creations, but it's also important to our businesses and our community as we are engaged with new Americans, visitors who come here and make us more competitive on the sports field, thinking of all the international players at the Blue Jackets, the Columbus Crew, thinking about the international doctors at Nationwide Children's Hospital, OSU, and how they save lives in Columbus every single day. These are important connections, and we need to make sure they feel welcome here. And the best way to do that is to have had some kind of experience. So that's what Sister Cities, in my mind, is about. It's creating connections, leveraging the relationships that mayors for the last 60 plus years have committed us to. And we're very proud to have Mayor Ginther, Mayor Coleman, and Mayor LaShucka here, along with President Hardin of City Council, who have all been very actively engaged with Sister Cities, and which I'm very proud of, so thank you. What also doesn't happen by accident in the last year is a Pesto Championship at the Italian Festival, where we had 10 local competitors, and one went to Genoa, Italy earlier this year and competed in the World Championship. Didn't win, but we competed, and this happens every other year, and we want to continue this. So we are looking for a partner to help us host that in the future, but that didn't happen by accident. We've been doing marathon exchanges. Dresden's been doing it. Dresden Sister Cities has been doing it for 7 years. We've been doing it between Columbus and Hefei, China, and Curitiba, Brazil, for the last 4 years. That doesn't happen by accident. We also took a trip to Spain, focused on smart cities, economic development, led by Franklin County Commissioner John O'Grady, co-led by President of City Council Shannon Hardin, along with businesses and representatives from universities, to explore smart cities, economic development. Because of that, we engaged with the Spanish Trade Commission out of Chicago, Extenda, which is a promotion organization that promotes trade and exports with Andalusia, the region that Sevilla's in. They have an office in New York. They came to Columbus for the first time to help us prepare for this trip. These connections didn't happen by accident. And then we won an award, a national award, through Sister Cities International for a project called The 1,000 Faces of Genoa. We had partners here throughout the city, the Columbus Airport, the Columbus Museum of Art, Franklin Park Conservatory, the Cultural Arts Center, and also the Convention Center, who displayed the 1,000 Faces of Genoa that was identified. This was an exchange that was identified by Councilmember Tyson and myself, and a group of young professionals that went there to mark our 60th anniversary for that relationship. That project won an award, not only because of all the people it connected to, but also the individuals that we captured here in Columbus. Over 1,400 portraits were taken by the Genoese photographer, and those will be displayed next year in Genoa, Italy. That did not happen by accident. So I want to acknowledge Samin Dadfar for all her hard work on making those things happen. Samin? So Phyllis always wants me to tell you my name. I guess it's not up there. So it's Tim Sword, but most people know I prefer Sword Force 1. We are here to celebrate a great year that we've had here with Sister Cities. I've mentioned some of the highlights. We have things coming up in the future that we're excited about, but we're very excited about the new and continuing corporate sponsors, individual sponsors that really make this possible. The fact that we're able to do more than we have in recent years is because the community has given us more. And we really are appreciative of that responsibility. And I do speak on behalf of myself and the board when I talk about that. We're fortunate to have a great program today, and to open it up, we're going to welcome the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. Since 1951, the Columbus Symphony Orchestra has served as Central Ohio's flagship music organization, guided by the artistic vision of music director Razin Milanov, also a board member of Sister Cities. The symphony offers performances that appeal to diverse audiences from throughout Central Ohio and beyond. We're grateful to have the musicians joining us today. Please welcome violinist Alicia Huey, Robert Ferdman, performing on the viola, Carl Peterson, and on the cello, Wendy Morton. I ask you to please stand as we honor the United States of America, and they perform the national anthem. Excellent. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Bonnie Quist, who serves as the chair of the Board of Directors for Greater Columbus Sister Cities.
Thank you, Tim. And thank all of you for joining us today. And I'm going to invite you, if you haven't started eating your salad or enjoying the hors d'oeuvres yet, please go ahead and do that. I have just a few comments for you. We have a record attendance today at this sold-out event, which is proof to us that the work, mission, and vision of Sister Cities are striking a chord with Central Ohio. During our program today, you will hear more about our award-winning activities that are energizing and impacting arts and culture, education, business, and economic development in our area. But as Tim mentioned, this work is not done in isolation. It is a collaborative effort, and we have many partners. Today's annual meeting, as well as our programs and activities throughout the year, are made possible by the support of the Central Ohio community. Their support, along with that of our elected officials and many volunteers, allows Sister Cities to create connections and showcase Columbus on an international stage. Thank you to the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and Columbus 2020, who have provided foundational support for many years, as well as leadership on our board. We are extremely proud to have Mayor Ginther serving as our honorary chair. He not only provides guidance and participates in our activities, this year he also helped to create our Global Leaders Circle, which is comprised of a distinguished group of businesses that share the mayor's appreciation for our city's diversity of economy, education, arts, culture, and neighborhoods. These partners are 360 Water, Frost Brown Todd, Honda, Huntington, Nationwide, Plant Moran, the Ohio State University Center for International Business Education, TS Tech Americas, and Voorhees, Sater, Seymour, and Pease. Sister Cities is also fortunate to have many more partners who support our dynamic programming. Those are listed on the back of your program as well as on the screen. These partners value our sister cities because they understand the importance of people-to-people relationships and international connections that expand our understanding of the world and of each other. Through these touch points, barriers are reduced, allowing impactful economic and cultural exchanges to flourish. Please join me in recognizing all of these supporting organizations. Today's luncheon is the annual meeting of the members of Greater Columbus Sister Cities International, and it is my honor to call that meeting to order. As part of our official business today, we invite all of you to participate in the election of the following individuals to a 3-year term on our board. Kathy Hare with Plant Moran, Rosin Milanov with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Dennis Mowry of Schneider Downs and Company, Michael Shattuck with the City of Columbus Department of Development, Jim Schimmer, Franklin County Economic Development and Planning, Matthew Wagner with TS Tech Americas, and Roberta Winch with the Columbus State Community College. May I please have a motion and a second for their election to the board for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2019. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, and congratulations to these re-elected members as well as those who are serving current terms. We would also like to give a special welcome to both Rosin and Matt, who are the newest members of our board of directors. And I would also like to share our slate of officers for 2019 who will assume their positions on January 1st. They are Kathy Hare as board chair. I will be moving to immediate past chair. Roberta Winch will be our chair-elect, Deb Shearer, vice chair, Dennis Mowry, treasurer, and David Wilson, secretary. It takes many engaged organizations and individuals to ensure that we are meeting our mission and goals, expanding our reach, and exceeding your expectations. We're very fortunate to have these partners all working together to create economic, cultural, and educational opportunities between our region and our sister cities. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve our community through this dynamic organization, and I hope you will expand your engagement with Sister Cities as we look forward to 2019. Please join me in recognizing and thanking our board members, our staff, and all of our partners and volunteers. And lastly, today we are proud to celebrate the 30th anniversary of 3 of our sister cities, Hefei, China, Seville, Spain, and Odense, Denmark. Each became a sister city of Columbus in 1988 under the leadership of former Mayor Dana Buck Reinhardt. To help celebrate this milestone, our luncheon today has been created by Milo's Catering, with each course representing the cuisine of today's honored cities. We invite you to enjoy your lunch, additional special music from our wonderful Columbus Symphony Orchestra, and we will continue our programming shortly. Bon appetit.
So what did you guys think about the lunch? Was it good? I want to thank Milo's for helping us celebrate the 30th anniversary with those Chinese, Danish, and Spanish little treats in that meal. I also want to recognize another group who supports community leaders. These would be our public and elected officials from the state of Ohio, Franklin County, the city of Columbus, and our surrounding communities, many are who are here today. So thank you, because your partnership is vital and ensures that we have the resources to create the sustainable programming so that we can create connections around the globe. And I want to thank you for collaborating with us all year long, not just today, so thank you. The Franklin County Board of Commissioners and Economic Development and Planning have been engaged and supported sister cities for many, many years. Very grateful for their equal partnership between the city of Columbus and Franklin County. And we have a video that was submitted by Commissioner O'Grady. So if we could play the video.
My colleagues and I believe in the mission of Columbus Sister Cities because we believe that international relations and international culture and international trade are all part of what we do here in Franklin County. From an economic development standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, from an education standpoint, the exchange between the residents of our community and communities that we link with around the globe are important because it's a global society and we've got to be able to have those relationships both economically and educationally. It's important to be able to talk to people eye to eye, face to face. You can't just email people, you can't just talk with people electronically. You've got to be able to go to their city, talk to them, make those relationships. That was never more evidence than it was in Spain this past spring. We tried to make those connections electronically and we found it very difficult to do. But once we got there, once we went over, talked to them face to face, we had fantastic relationships, built really good, strong connections. The reason I think that it's important for sister cities to evolve is because the global marketplace is constantly evolving. The relationships are constantly evolving. If your environment's evolving, you've got to be willing to evolve and adapt to that. Franklin County has to seek connections around the world. We're an international city. Our community, our citizens, our residents of this community are international. Our businesses are international. Our universities are international. Everything about Columbus and Franklin County is international. For us to not look outside of the region, us to not look outside of our borders, for us to not look outside of the state to do business would be very small-minded, would be very backward thinking of us. You have probably heard Tim talk about what if every resident of Franklin County had the opportunity to travel internationally with some sort of purpose. Would we make better decisions? Would we make different decisions? Certainly, I believe that we would, that everybody would make better or more purposeful decisions than they do because it changes people's perspective. When you do that, you oftentimes then are making much more informed decisions about your circumstances and therefore you change your decision making for, I believe, the better. 2018 has been a fantastic year for Greater Columbus Sister Cities. Congratulations to the board, Tim Sword, and Samin Dadfar. Best wishes for another successful year.
We have excellent support from the county commissioners and Jim Schimmer, who serves on our board representing the county. Another great partner and another great decision of our city is Columbus 2020. We have Deb Shear, who's on our board. Columbus 2020 joins us as a sustaining partner, providing leadership and guidance in the areas of international business and economic development, connections, and opportunities. I'd like to recognize Columbus 2020 for the progress they have made by creating the 150,000 new jobs, generating $8 billion of capital investment, and they're closing in on raising personal per capita income by 30%. Through their work, the region is on pace to have the strongest decade of economic growth in its history. Let's all congratulate Columbus 2020. I'd like to share a quote from our next presenter. Columbus values our sister cities as these relationships are an important gateway to expand our trade opportunities, our experiences, and our world. Columbus Sister Cities directly assists in reducing barriers and building strong partnerships that lead to successful business development and cultural exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorary Chair of the Greater Columbus Sister City Board and the Mayor of the City of Columbus, Andrew Ginther.
Good afternoon, and what a great day here in the city of Columbus. I want to thank Tim and the Greater Columbus Sister Cities Board. You know, I'm really lucky that I have two people that I still can rely on and lean on that did the job that I attempt to do every day. And so anytime I can hang out with former mayors Lashutka and Coleman, that's a good day. And we get to share a lot of stories. They can tell me, you know, a lot about the decisions made in the past. You know, oddly enough, there are some issues that haven't gone away, that mayors 20 and 30 years ago and mayors not so long ago were dealing with as well. And so I'm grateful to have them here, to have them be willing to step up in their respective retirements from public service to be here, to be part of this, shows how important they think Sister Cities is to Columbus's past, present, and future. So I'm grateful for them. And for Council President Hardin, who's been a great champion for growing international business and development and keeping Columbus connected to the world. I'm proud to serve as honorary chair and act in the role of ambassador to our sister cities. We all know that sister cities create opportunities for residents and city officials to experience and explore other cultures. I was fortunate to help lead the delegation to Accra, Ghana, our newest sister city in 2016. Made it particularly special because former Mayor Coleman had started that process, and a young staffer in his office, the current council president, worked on it. And so for all three of us to be part of that delegation to Accra in 2016 was very special. One of the most impactful experiences for me was seeing former slave castles on Ghana's Cape Coast, where millions of captured Africans were held before being shipped to the Americas in the transatlantic trade slave. The power of that experience, and those that were with me, is something that I will never forget. It has impacted former presidents and leaders throughout history, and one that I carry with me today. We have 35,000 Ghanaians right in Columbus right now. We have a connection, a shared history, present, and future. Accra is the capital and largest city of Ghana with a population of over 2 million. And then based on Tim's schedule and regimen for our time there, I think I met each one of the 2 million people in Accra, Ghana. You know, its experience with early childhood education offers lessons for Columbus. One of my top priorities is for Columbus to become a national leader in the birth to 5 space. And we know that early childhood education can set the stage for lifelong success for our young residents. And spending some time with the incredible educators and children in Accra showed me the huge gains they are starting to see with their early childhood education efforts. Compulsory education in Ghana starts at the age of 4, with day-long, intensive year-round programming. Particularly, the results we're seeing already with underprivileged children. Investing more in those early years of life are yielding great results for Ghana. Sister Cities also helps bring us business connections. We live in a global world. Business and trade don't just happen on a federal level. Thank God we don't have to count on the federal government to do what we can do for ourselves. It can happen on a local level as well. While we were in Accra, the Columbus contingent visited some businesses interested in doing work in the U.S. and discussed opportunities to work together. Environmental health is a big issue in Accra, and Columbus has experience with its wet weather management plan that could be helpful. I encourage everyone here to get involved in our call to action. Support programs of sister cities. Participate in exchanges with our sister cities and serve as citizen diplomats. Thank you again for being here this afternoon. I look forward to the panel discussion with other mayors and Council President Hardin. Thank you for your support of Columbus Sister Cities.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther, particularly for serving as the chair of our board, the honorary chair. The next segment is a real milestone for Sister Cities, and we're proud of the leadership that has joined us today. Mayor Ginther is the first to take a seat, so I shouldn't have let you leave, I guess. I'm in trouble. Besides Mayor Ginther, we have the two most recent former mayors of Columbus and the current president of Columbus City Council, who will share their individual stories and personal connections with our 62-year history engaging with our sister cities. Please welcome Mayor Michael Coleman, who served Columbus from 2000 to 2015. During his tenure, Mayor Coleman welcomed Ahmedabad, India, Curitiba, Brazil, and Accra, Ghana as our sister cities. Former Mayor Greg Lashutka served Columbus from 1992 through 2000. During his years of service, Mayor Lashutka signed Dresden, Germany in 1992 and Herzliya, Israel 4 years later. Thank you. This is a quote: "We don't serve to get elected, we are elected to serve." These are the words of our next panelist, who uses this as his guide for his work and commitment to Columbus and sister cities. President Hardin, who has represented the city of Columbus in council on mission trips to Accra, Ghana, and most recently co-led, along with County Commissioner John O'Grady, the Smart City-focused trip to Sevilla, Spain. I'm just as thrilled to welcome our next moderator to help us guide this conversation today. Please welcome Colleen Marshall from NBC Evening News, anchor and host of the weekly political program, The Spectrum. She was with NBC4. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone, and we welcome these distinguished panelists who, for once, don't seem to be too sad to see me.
We run the other way.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Mayor Lashutka from when Republicans were still allowed in City Hall. It's very nice to have you back with us.
They exist in the city, and it's always good to see you.
Some of my best friends are Republicans.
We do welcome these distinguished panelists because this is an important anniversary for sister cities. It's a remarkable achievement that Columbus, Ohio has been able to connect with cities really all over the world. And much of that is due to the leadership of people like the gentleman you see on the stage with us today. So what I would like to do is start with Mayor Lashutka. You signed Dresden, Germany, and you also signed, pronounce it for me, in Israel. Herzliya in Israel, one of our sister cities. So how did those relationships specifically come about? And what made you think this is a good move for the city of Columbus?
Well, Colleen, it's always good to see you, and I want to congratulate Tim Sword and Sister Cities. This is a robust turnout, and you should feel real good. But we didn't start off this way. We're an inland city. Of the three big sea cities, Cleveland to the north, they were coastal through the Great Lakes, Cincinnati on a river, and we're inland, and inland cities have it tougher. And so just a quick walk down memory lane to kind of get to your point. Jim Rhodes, years ago, had the guts to fly to Japan to help lure Honda and start the Transportation Research Center. That was unheard of for a governor to do that. And if you realize that Jim Rhodes grew up in Jackson, Ohio, this was not something he grew up with. He was using his personal chutzpah to go out and do what's good for Ohio and good for Columbus. And it's a regional benefit that we have received, and it continues. Tom Moody was the first president of the International Union of Local Authorities, and we hosted their first American conference here. And I distinctly remember far too many drunk Italians who were hanging around Schmidt's Sausage House in German Village, enjoying our hospitality, and they were well behaved, may I say. And then you had Mayor Sensenbrenner, and we can't forget him. He helped seal the deal with our Italian heritage with Genoa. Buck Reinhardt saw the things that would take place, and his three sister cities were there. So there was a history of the importance of that I learned not only from myself, but I married a woman who grew up in Munich when her dad ran Radio Free Europe and spoke German. And the Huntington Bank had a gentleman who grew up in Dresden, Germany, a coveted relationship. And after winning the mayor's race, Frank said, we need to close this out. We're in a horse race with Cincinnati, Boston, but Columbus is where we should have this. It's a rich city, formerly Eastern Germany, culturally, economically, and Frank was persuasive, but it didn't take any persuading because Buck had laid some groundwork, and it requires in the process, as I think most of you know, the mayor from the reciprocal city to come and sign the document, and we have to go there. Fair or unfair, mayors lead the regional effort, the big city mayor. And that was something we willingly did. Catherine, who spoke German, joined me, and we made it work very well. Frank was unflinching, and that legacy continues today with the Marathon Exchange. Annette Macy-Junes is here, and we have a wonderful piece of art at the Columbus Art Museum. You should go see it. And those exchanges foster cultural understanding, the citizen ambassadors that Andy Ginther talked about, but more importantly, enrich our spirits of mind, and that heritage with the Italians, the Irish, and the Germans historically is perpetuated. But we've gone far beyond that, as you see the other sister cities. Our Jewish community then brought the opportunity with Herzliya. Herzl was one of the founders of current Israel, and it is next to Tel Aviv, high-tech community, ambassador residences, and as we traveled, this burly mayor, Eli Landau, former paratrooper in the '54 war, proud to help his port develop, and he and the Jewish community, led by Jack Wallach, who most of you won't know, but a wonderful human being who cared about doing things right. His heritage, being honest in business, led the delegation that we went over, visited with Ellie, signed the agreement there, and then he came back here. So those two sister city relationships have their roots because the people of Columbus wanted it. I just happened to be mayor at the time, endorsed the concept, and maybe helped a little bit.
Yeah, don't downplay your role in all of this, because as you said, there are so many layers and so many connections that can be made culturally, economically, educationally. And Mayor Coleman, I know when you were mayor, it was important to you, and you asked the Sister Cities Board to connect with a country or a city in Latin America and in Africa. What was behind, though? Were you thinking we just need to go in a new direction, or what inspired that?
Well, first of all, I thought the direction that they were going in was great. I thought the sister city relationships were solid and fundamental to who we are and who they are, and I visited many of those cities, and it really benefited our city with those relationships, and those cities benefited by our experience and knowledge. But what I saw that was missing, that needed attention, was that somewhere between 40 to 45% of all those who live in Columbus are either from Latin America or Africa. And none of those cities were represented or connected with our Sister Cities program. And so as the first African American mayor, I said, you know what, we need to connect somehow with Latin America and the continent of Africa. So the Sister Cities Board went through a thorough process of identifying which cities should be part of our Sister Cities process. And it took some time, but it was thorough. and ended up with those two cities. And we subsequently visited Ghana and Brazil, Curitiba and Accra, and it's been a wonderful experience. So the Ghanaian community and all those whose descendants come from Africa have an opportunity to connect in Africa, in Ghana, in that particular city. Mayor Ginther and I and President Hardin went to Accra, was it 2 years ago. Incredible experience. And the mayor talked about his experience at the place where slaves were captured and stored like animals and then shipped to the United States. And it was powerful, it was moving. You know, we all shed a tear. All of us shed a tear. And then going down to Brazil, OSU went with us. They set up an office in Sao Paulo. We had a lot of exchanges as a result, and there are folks now working on both ends, both for Ghana and for Brazil, both of those cities, to advance a relationship that otherwise we would not have had.
My daughter got both of her masters from Ohio State, and one of the programs she did was visit that office. So, you know, that's an impact that you're directly having on you know, MBA students at The Ohio State University. And are those the kinds of connections you're proudest of? I mean, is that what you envisioned in connecting with a city in Brazil or in Ghana? Helping another generation?
Helping another generation. It wasn't about us, it's about the next generation. While we were in Ghana, we spent a lot of time with the largest business in the continent of Africa, Zoom Lion. And they have been coming back and forth to Columbus, looking at business opportunities for them in our city. Don't know where that's going to lead, but I must say that but for that visit, Zoom Lion would not be investigating Columbus for potential business opportunities and hiring our people in Columbus to advance their multiple interests. I never heard of them. Never heard of Zoom Lion before we went to that city. And then the opportunity to exchange art, sports opportunities, students, they become further enriched because of that relationship, like your daughter. And she's enriched because of that experience. And that makes not only those individuals better, it makes the cities that they come from better as well.
And Mayor Ginther, you mentioned earlier how emotional the trip was to Accra, and maybe you could share with us your best memories of that trip, but also how your delegation is received when you get to a country like Ghana that probably people don't know a lot about Columbus, Ohio. You know, what's the reception that you get as an American leader when you get to a country like that?
The reception and the welcome is just extraordinary. I mean, the treatment from the people of Accra, and as we traveled about, we talked about going to the Cape Coast, but we also visited a more rural village outside of Accra, and the reception and the love and the warmth we felt from the people of Ghana was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Incredible people, wonderful people. As I mentioned, we have a special connection with them because although if you talk with folks from the Ghanaian community here in Columbus, I said 35,000. I think no one from the Ghanaian community has told me less than 75,000 Ghanaians in Columbus. And so I joked with the folks there in Ghana when we worshiped and went other places that I had talked to each and every one of them here in Columbus, and they were all doing well. But it was a great experience for us, you know, culturally, as Coleman has talked about, economic development and business partnerships. One of the things, and I mentioned it in passing, is environmental health. Ghana even though other countries have been exploiting and taking advantage of the incredible resources of that country, never invested in basic infrastructure. And the life expectancy and the quality of life due to very basic things like water treatment plants and having sewer systems and put in place. Incredible that such exceptional wealth came out of Ghana to benefit other parts of the world, and how little was invested back in to basic infrastructure that we take for granted every day. So for us to be able to leverage our expertise in that work, particularly in the work we're doing, whether in water treatment facilities that we're investing in collectively as a community, to be able to leverage that to benefit the people of Ghana was another great experience as well.
What do you think was the most important impact for Columbus that came out of that? Is my mic still on? Give me that mic. What do you think was the most important? Yeah, I bet. Was the most important outcome of that trip to Ghana for Columbus? Because if you're looking at as being a Columbus leader and you come back after this mission, essentially, to another part of the world, what's the impact here?
Well, I'd say there are a couple of big ones, and some of them have been mentioned. Obviously, the specific opportunity to partner with Zoom Lion and the potential there for them to expand and invest in Columbus and hire Columbus residents to do work on their behalf. The lessons learned I took away around early childhood education are going to inform me as we continue to expand high-quality early learning opportunities to children throughout the city. I think one of the other things is I have no doubt that our experience and partnership and connection there is going to improve the environmental health of the people of Ghana. And we committed, and private sector companies that were part of our effort there shared information and committed to share lessons learned, experience, expertise to help inform that moving forward, because I think the people of Ghana deserve the world's commitment to improving the quality of life, expanding, lengthening life expectancy, but also improving the quality of life of the people of Ghana. And we should be leading the way because of our special connection with the Ghanaian American community in the city.
I also want to ask President Hardin, you went with this trip, but also to Seville, Spain. And we think, Ghana, as the mayor said, needs a lot of help in infrastructure, the kinds of things that we think of almost as third world countries. But in Seville, you probably saw cultural differences of a different kind. Tell us a little bit about that trip.
Certainly, Colleen. Thank you so much for having us to Tim Sword and to Sister Cities. It's an honor to be on this stage. Sitting next to three mayors, you see the difference between a mayor and a council president. Council presidents still have to wear ties. And, but
Looking good.
I was a part of the Sevilla trip in particular because of the role I played as chair of the Public Service and Transportation Committee, working with Mayor Ginther on smart cities. And that was a smart cities focused trip. And in Columbus, we talk a lot about and view our growth pertaining to smart cities around technology, and we're very proud of the work that we're doing, the efforts that we're taking, and really being a leader here and around the country for the ability to be on the forward end of these new technologies. It was interesting to get to some of the cities that we visited in Spain and realize that they're having a broader conversation around technology and what technology means to smart cities. One of the examples that blew me away, a couple of examples that blew me away while we were in Sevilla and Malaga, Spain in particular, is they have sensorized all of their trash pickup. So in their trash cans, they when the trash fills up, it sends a sensor to their refuse departments to go around and pick up. So instead of the systematic, we'll stop at every house, it sensorizes and tells the department when to pick up. I thought that was brilliant. And there are differences. They have, I think I asked, well, how many trash cans do you have in your city? And it was like 7,000. And I thought back, well, I think we have 400,000 in Columbus. So there were challenges, but also every one of their parking spots is metered. And so you can get on an app, look at the app and see every available spot. And like right when my mind was about to blow up, Mark Patton, who's here with us and was part of our trip and is our leader in Smart Cities, said we're working on that too. So, but it was good to see though. So and to see and to talk to folks who have been in this space for a long time and see where we're doing really well, but also where we have space to learn.
In a city that had that kind of advancement in the smart city concept, what was their belief, or were you able to figure out how they view Columbus? What did they think or imagine Columbus to be?
I think that, so one of the things that I found interesting was we talk about the economic opportunities with travel and especially with these cities. They also see us as an economic generator, and so they're looking to do business. They see it in Spain. They have an unemployment rate of 16.5%. Wow. Among young professionals, it's 25%. Wow. And so they're looking to Columbus. They know about our universities. They understand the importance of this global community and how we're all going to be interconnected, and they look and see where we've done really well and look for those partnerships.
We always wonder, what does foreign countries, what do other people think of us as Americans? And if any of you, like I did in school, had to read the book The Ugly American, you worry about the impression that you leave when you go into someone else's homeland. And as Shannon and I discussed at lunch, you're the other person, you're the outsider. I'm curious if all of you can just share with us what that felt like to you, that now you are the foreign visitor, and how you felt you were received and the overall impression of Americans.
I think Americans are well received if you respect their culture, want to listen to them, try their language, and show the same respect we would expect with our fellow citizens in Columbus. It's not complicated. I've seen my share of ugly Americans, as has my wife, and I think everybody in this room. But common basic understanding is there, and I think it would be great to show, if we could get 747s fly Columbus to different parts. We'd appreciate this city a lot more. Mm-hmm. We'd also appreciate the world as a very frightening place, but there's wonderful people out there, and we are a place, as we look around this room, people of different religions, cultures, and races, we get along better than a lot of places. Part of it has the roots here in sister cities and the fundamental principle for which they were created.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Totally agree. I absolutely agree with Mayor Lashutka. I will say this, though, that every mayor now and going into the future should engage in all the cities of sister cities, all the relationships. If I have a regret as mayor, is that I didn't go to every single last one of them and spend time there, because I think I've been to 5 of the cities, as I recall, but not all the cities. And if I could do a do-over, which will never happen, I assure you, I would, in fact, go to each one of them and bring a delegation with me, because every time I went to a sister city, I came back better. I came back a better leader, a better mayor, more knowledgeable about the world. I did my job better as a mayor because of that experience. And imagine those who come with us. They were better as well. And the relationship in sister cities only makes us better. more well-rounded, new ideas, new experiences. Because as mayor, and we all know this, we're rushing around thinking about how we put out this fire, what the next thing is, trying to build our city. And then when you get a chance to see what other people are doing and not doing, you have a way to measure what you're doing and what you could be doing more of or differently in the process.
Do you think, Mayor, that it has changed the way that you connect with this very diverse, you brought it up earlier, Columbus is more than ever a very diverse international city. Has it changed the way you connect with the diverse communities here in Columbus?
Absolutely. And I think throughout the region, I mean, we have mayors and city managers from all over the region that are here today, and I'm grateful for them being here and being part of this, because this isn't just about sister cities' relationship and our international look from the city's perspective, but from the regions. I mean, what would Marysville be today if the governor wouldn't have made that trip to Japan? It'd be a very different place, and all of Central Ohio would be a very different place. The next 20 years, and I'll make this specific connection to economic development, I believe the next great battle over economic development and job creation is going to be over talent. Who can attract and retain the best talent, not just in Columbus and in Ohio and the Midwest, but from around the world? Smart and open should be continue to be our guiding light. If we want to keep our competitive edge and continue to grow and share prosperity and have inclusive and dynamic growth and development, we have to stay focused on being able to attract the best and the brightest from around the world. And that means we have to be welcoming, we have to be inclusive, we have to invest in people, in neighborhoods, and constantly be thinking about our connections to the world.
Shannon, I'm curious, you've all mentioned that you took delegations with you, business, education leaders who also got to experience this through not only your eyes, but through the eyes of the people you were meeting with. So I'm curious how you now view citizen diplomacy and the importance of whether or not the people who represent our businesses also represent our American life and specifically this city.
That's a really good question. Post our Accra trip, we always want to make sure that the trips have life and have connection far beyond the 10, 12, or in Accra's case, I think it was a large delegation, about 20 folks that went. And so the city supported last year sending, actually this year, sending young people, I think high schoolers, to Accra from Central Ohio, so that they can start to build those relationships and come back and be ambassadors to our city. You had an earlier question about how we were received and what is our role when we're over there. On our Accra trip, it was very, very interesting. We went to Accra 3 days after the 2016 presidential election. And I remember us going to a university in Accra, and a young African lady got up and asked. They were scared, honestly. They were because of the candidate, because of some of the things that were said during that campaign. What the new role of America would be in their lives, and the three of us were sitting there, and we were still reeling with the new reality as well. But what we said to them was that America is bigger than any one person. It's all of us. And so at that moment, I realized that it's important that they see the diversity in us as well. And our diversity in thought and diversity in engagement, and I think that was really important, that it's bigger than just one person.
And Tim Sword mentioned that he believes that when any of us travel to a foreign country, we should do so with a purpose. I went to a wedding of one of my daughter's friends in Jamaica this past year, and my son was also with us, and it was eye-opening to go through the poverty to the resorts, we really then made a conscious effort to get out of the resorts and go to the local restaurants and try to connect with some of the local people and to see how different their lives really are from our lives. So I guess my question to you is, what purpose should we have when we travel and represent America and represent Columbus? What should be our focus when we are the foreign visitor?
I would like to, I think we do what has been discussed. That is a nice value add. But for me, when I was mayor, the ROI, the return on the investment, for all of you who are here as taxpayers or as supporters, has to start with Columbus. If we can't bring something back that's going to better our city, and primarily a job opportunity, and we just think about the comment I made about Jim Rhodes, and then that was followed with Honda, and a story about Jim Rhodes when they were discussing whether Honda comes. Mrs. Honda was sitting in the back row. The Japanese leadership of the company was at the table. He pulled another chair up. She sat at the table. Not Japanese culture, but American culture, and he showed a respect to her that helped the deal of Honda coming to Central Ohio. Or the ability of Ohio State, and I see Franklin University, as they're reaching out with educational opportunities that help provide students coming here to visit and learn and go back. But if we don't start with what's the return on the investment here from the companies, and you deserve credit also for the Asian Indian Friends, and we were talking at the beginning about some of those companies investing here in the States in a democracy that's trying to get their flywheel going a little faster, and that'll take some time. But it has to have an economic return at the end of the day, and the rest of it can kind of follow and is part of it. But for me, it had to be an ROI based on a return of tax dollars for the expenditure sent and those who invested. The rest of it is important, but if it's not that, you can't do the rest of it.
I saw you shaking your head, Mayor Coleman. Do you agree with that? Is that the purpose you envision for our citizens?
Well, I think it's three-pronged. I do 100% agree it needs to have ultimately an economic benefit. But, you know, I've done this for a long time, and it takes time, effort, and follow-up to make sure that the economic benefit is truly there. And Sister Cities is the entree point, but it should not be the beginning, it should not be the end. It's just the beginning of the relationship. And so the challenge that Sister City will have to have going forward, and always has had, is continuing to reach out and follow up. Because businesses, they're running their businesses in those countries, and we're running our businesses in our country, and the only way you can really connect them up is not just one meeting, but 20 of them. 2020 is here. I see Deb over there. She'll tell you that. It's an ongoing communication that makes a difference. But I think the other part is also educational, and the third part is cultural. There's three heads to this, but I do agree that the economics, the business relationship is essential in what happens.
Mayor, maybe you can explain to us, when I say mayor, I mean this one, now, this time.
It's like being in a grocery store. Somebody says, Dad, and everybody turns around. All the men turn around.
But maybe you can tell us about why you think it's important to, as they've both alluded to, this public-private partnership gets the wheels moving. How are you going to advance that, and why is it so important?
Well, I think I would echo a lot of what has been said, and I return back to this battle for talent, you know, and really believe one of our greatest opportunities to grow as a region is in entrepreneurship and startups. And as good as we're doing as a country, there are things we can learn from the rest of the world. If you don't know much about the entrepreneurship community and startups of Israel and other places around the world, there are things we can learn. And those companies, by the way, are looking for North American headquarters. And each one of the ones I met with thought Columbus would be a great place with our smart city designation. And so continuing to focus on those economic development opportunities, but I can't
leave this without talking about the type of community, the way you attract and retain talent is making sure that you have a community and a culture that welcomes people from around the world, that they feel welcome, safe, and part of the community.
And valued.
And valued.
And Mary?
Just to follow up ever so briefly, this is a different era. When I started off, we were making the papers about spending tax dollars, and it was a waste, and questioning it. And now, I don't think there's a person in our community, by and large, who would question it. We had a get-together that was trying to help educate all sectors about what President Ginther, or Mayor Ginther just said. And there's an author named Rosabeth Moss Kanter, and she attended, Harvard professor. She wrote a book called World Class. And at the end of the day, it's world-class concepts, world-class connections, and world-class competence. Because our competition isn't Dayton and Cincinnati. It's all the cities around the world. And unless we can't do what each of my colleagues have said, we will not compete and we will lose. And I remember Les Wexner talking about just-in-time inventory, because when you wake up, you can go on TV, see a dress that's maybe on the runway in Prague. He needed to have it in his showrooms in a month and a half, and they did, because we now have worldwide connections with people and communication. So that's where we live, and that's a value that Sister Cities brings to help us even get better in that regard.
Well, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to start at that end and ask each of you to just tell people who might be here from a business or an educational institution or a nonprofit thinking about joining one of these delegations, why you think that Sister Cities and these connections is so important to the city of Columbus. And Shannon, we'll start with you.
I think, like I said, it's about telling our story, being able to connect. On our trip, we had business owners. I think about Cassie, who works for the Brunner Corp, and had not realized or had not thought about their role in their connection in a different country, and the meetings that she was able to have, her advocacy on behalf of Columbus. It was really amazing. I think that you get bought into us, the Columbus, on those trips.
The us in Columbus.
This is hard work. If you go, you better be in shape and you better be ready to work. This is not sleeping in. It's a forced march. And if you don't want to do that, forget it. Don't do it. But if you do, you'll come back a better person, a better individual, a better father, a better husband, and a better citizen for our community.
That was great. Mayor Coleman?
I think it's about learning, getting better as a community, as leaders, as businesses. And the truth is, our world has actually gotten smaller. Global competition is real, it's alive, and that's been referred to repeatedly. And Columbus needs to be positioned well when it comes to stepping up globally and competitively in multiple fronts, as Mayor Ginther talked about with talent, as Mayor LaShuka talked about with economic development. Competition is where it's at, and Columbus needs to be competitive.
And finally, Mayor Ginther?
Wow. I guess the only thing I would add is, I share examples all the time of being in competition and Columbus getting on certain lists, and whether it's HQ2 or winning the Smart City Challenge, there are people around the country and the world that were surprised. I'm not surprised, and we should stop acting surprised. This is where Columbus belongs. We are an international city, and we will become much more diverse in the years ahead. We ought not fear that. We ought to embrace it and harness it for greater economic development and growth and shared prosperity across the region. This is where we belong, and we ought to own it.
Thank you all very much.
Wow.
That was fantastic. Thank you, guys. So I'm the leader of the organization, Greater Columbus Sister Cities, and what I heard was the city and the county will probably give us more money next year. I definitely heard that the economic development agencies, the city and the county, all of their staff should be traveling on these eventually so that we have depth. We need a Columbus Museum and Columbus Metropolitan Club and all those folks to join these envoys to help promote Columbus around the world. It's really actually that important. Commissioner Brown and I went to Brazil as a follow-up to Mayor Coleman signing when I first started. And I often say we have 10 sister cities, but it is not the boundary of our interest. It's just where we have special entry points. And in São Paulo, we were doing a business luncheon with Brazilian business people that were looking to invest money in a country, and their country was not a good investment at that time. I think it's still a challenge, but they do have funds and they're looking to make money and they're looking to the United States and they're looking to Europe. At the end of the luncheon, they said, we never even heard of Columbus, Ohio, after hearing Eric Janis's pitch on basically the Columbus 2020 region. And when you listen to that, or if you ever sit through it, we're pretty impressive. And if you've never heard of it, because we might be the 15th largest city, but if you watch movies in an international country, I don't think, unless this recent Steven Spielberg thing, but I don't know if we were portrayed that well, but you don't know about Columbus. So it's our job to go out there and do it. But we also have an influx of international students at Ohio State and many other universities that can be ambassadors for us. So we need to embrace them while they're here and help prepare them to go back to their home countries. There's so many opportunities for us to connect, but we do need to lean into it. And I need all of you to be involved. The companies, so this is the part where I say, this is what I need, or what we need. We need funding. We need funding so that we can actually run these programs. We have 2 people right now, and we do some contracting, but we need a little more. Most people don't even know we exist. We need to invest in our marketing. So that's where some of the funds would have to go. But that is to attract others, individuals, other companies and organizations to join our cause to connect Columbus to the world. We have great partners in here. We can do a lot more, even with the people in here, including the number one thing to me is young people, because it is about the future. And if we're only sending the most senior people, and I'm not accusing us of doing that, but I worked for the Department of Agriculture for a while, and even at the age of 35, I was by far the youngest person on an international trip. Why is that a problem? Because those other people, they're not going to come home and do anything with it. It's the truth. They're at the top of their game. They've got too many responsibilities. But the younger people, it can change the course of their career. I was 16, raking hay in the field, and my mom drove out with that letter that said I was invited to China because I was a good runner. And when I came back from that trip, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do for a living, but it's going to have something to do with international travel. And to imagine what I just heard, that I get to be part of that, and all the trips and all the connections I've made, I'm very honored about this. Someone said, oh, you can even do this in your backyard. Even companies have cultural connections that can be made and shared. And that's true. And in fact, Doug and I had a group of students from Ohio State in our backyard on Sunday, the Global Leadership Initiative students from Ohio State, and we carved pumpkins. And I thought they didn't know what they were doing, but they ended up being better than I thought because they were adding things after the carving was done. That exchange was incredible. And just finding ways to connect them here, that's what it's about. So I just want to end it. We do have volunteer committees focused on the sister cities. We need to strengthen those committees to identify opportunities in the individual cities. We're looking for ambassadors, people that actually care about that city or that country and want to make that connection work. We need those folks. We need people that want to engage with students or support students. Samin's, one of her big challenges next year, or challenge opportunity, is to create a flagship program focused on education. We're 2 people. We're not going to run high school education programming. We can't do that. However, we can work with schools around the Central Ohio to develop targeted trips and focuses to connect to schools in our sister cities. And we know from those trips that they're looking for opportunities to connect. There's many international students that want to learn English. And let's face it, some of those families have money, and they can send their student here, and they can come here and learn some English and interact with our students and go to the #1 zoo in the country or a Clippers game and engage in cultural exchange right here. we recently, because of the commissioner's box, we use that for social. We took some chairs of our committees that are originally from another country, and it didn't even occur to me that they had never been to a baseball game and what kind of experience that was for them. There's a lot of opportunities. We need to open our mind, stay focused, and let's make the most of this. And I just want to thank, once again, Mayor Ginther, Mayor LaShucka, Mayor Coleman, President Hardin, and everyone here. Thank you for spending the afternoon, and please engage with us. Thank you.